So this film might have one of the dirtiest sex scenes that I've ever seen, but not because of the content, but because the characters are actually rolling around in the mud. God's Own Country. Now, this has been sitting on my watch list for a very long time, and I'll tell you a brief story about how I finally got to watch it. So I was watching that movie Challengers that just came out, and that's a recommendation in and of itself. It's the same director of Call Me By Your Name, and it's a love triangle. It's not directly a gay film, but it kind of is. I don't know, it's a lot of fun. I just imagine the sweat budget of that movie must have been insane. Challengers, scene 47, take 3. Cut, 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 cut. It needs to be sweatier. We don't have any more, sir. What? No, there must be the we need more. We need more. Make it happen. Sweat, more. Blow, blow, blow. Sweat, more. Blow, blow. Cut, cut, cut. So after I watched Challengers, my friend told me that one of the stars of that movie, Josh O'Connor, was in this movie called God's Own Country. And finally, that got me to watch it because he did a great job in Challengers, and it made me want to explore deeper what he had done before. So God's Own Country is about this farmer played by Josh O'Connor who lives with his grandmother and his father, and you see his day-to-day life working on the farm. But the story starts to get going when they need additional help, so they hire a man to help out him on the farm. This film that I've been always trying to watch, it's also been recommended a couple times in the comments, and this film, I regret waiting so long. I really, really love this movie. It was just not at all what I thought it was going to be. I will try to avoid major spoilers, but I will be talking about certain scenes, and that's your warning. I thought it was going to be this very slow, laborious type of film, which is fine. I really appreciate those movies, but you got to be in the right mood for it. And after a long day, you sometimes don't want to sit down and watch the most challenging film out there. But it's just a really well done movie, and it moves along, even though it's really kind of quiet. The first half of the movie doesn't have a lot of dialogue in it. It does move along quickly, and it doesn't linger too much and overstay its welcome. This film has a lot of comparisons to Brokeback Mountain, and it's pretty obvious that either subconsciously or consciously that there are homages to Brokeback Mountain. I mean, there's a shot that happens that you could feel that it is directly taken from Brokeback Mountain, but because it's just the way it's framed, you know, the other character is out of focus and the main character's in the foreground. It's the same shot, and must be a throwback to Brokeback Mountain because there's a lot of similarities. And there's another shot that happens with the father character where he's seeing the two guys starting to bond. So yeah, there's definitely a callback to it, even though this movie really is very different than Brokeback Mountain. So immediately we just get to see how grueling this farm work really is. It's just absolutely horrible. I can't imagine how just the physicality you need just to do all this work, and it's consistent, and you see that, and the film does a great job putting you in that type of work. And I read that the director Francis this is kind of autobiographical in some elements, where he actually was part of a family farm, and so yeah, so there's an authenticity to this film that you don't normally see, and it feels like it's because somebody who actually experienced this. So immediately we see his home life, and it is not a great atmosphere. The grandmother is just, there is no redeeming qualities at first from the grandmother character and the father. They just seem very like cold people, and the whole atmosphere is very cold. And this is all happening while he's discovering his sexuality. But it's a very unique film because he's not really discovering it in ways that you think that people usually discover their sexuality, where it becomes this realization. It almost feels like this nuisance, this part of him that is gay is just kind of this animalistic thing. And the way that the film shows sex is very unique in that regard, because it changes from having this animalistic, I need to get this sort of thing out of me, to showing that there's other parts of sex that are not just animalistic. Now, the sex scenes in this film, there are a handful of them, and I don't believe, there's a movement now that you read online that there's useless sex scenes, and I never think that a sex scene is useless, because at the very least you get to see a deeper side of the character, or how a character actually makes an intimate moment, and that's just bringing you closer to the character. The sex scenes are very much a part of the storytelling, and to see how the main character grows, and how there are different types of it. There's types that are very aggressive, and there's types that can be very romantic. And so that was a very interesting perspective that the film deals with. And there is a very famous, or I don't know if it's famous, but it's a very striking sex scene that takes place in the mud. And that's all I'll say, but it's very unique. And I thought it was just cinematic in a lot of ways. Just seeing something like that feels so visceral and real and raw. This film is mostly a character study about this one guy. And even though his co-lead does a really great job, kind of this beacon of hope of him trying to change, but in a lot of ways it's about this character and all his flaws, and whether or not he can actually escape from all his problems. I would just say a slight criticism is that the film could be a bit formulaic, in that we kind of seen a story like this before. It infuses a lot of different elements, like that on the farm, or seeing this from a perspective that you don't usually see. His sexuality is not a huge obstacle in a lot of ways for him. And I thought the way that they did it was special and unique. And it's that Kubrick quote that I always think about, that he said that every film has essentially been done before. It's just the filmmaker's job to try to do it a little bit better. And I think God's Own Country does this. It tells a traditional story, but it kind of remixes it and does it in a special way. I was just feeling really good at the end of it. Again, it doesn't play out how you think it's going to play out, and that is what made it really special. And yes, this film also has two gays on a bike, so they never stop. They never stop writing.